All right, guys, today we are doing a little comparison between the new Sony XV800. We're going to see what it can do up against a pair of JBL Partybox 110s in TWS mode. And then we'll probably see what it can do against just one JBL Partybox 110. Let's get to it. We are indoors, of course. I'm probably about 10 to 11 feet away from the speakers. I'm zoomed in a little bit. Now we're going to be running the Sony. I don't like the Mega Bass. If you've heard the past, I've talked about that. I demoed it in one of the previous videos. Mega Bass is real dark. Doesn't sound good at all. So on the Sony, we're using their custom EQ within their app, and there are the settings I'm using. Mids up a little bit, bass up, not quite all the way, treble up, not quite all the way. Increase a lot, basically. And on the JBL, we're going to run it with no bass boost. And basically all I did in the app was I bumped up the mids, highs, and lows just one notch each. So no bass boost on that. With the Sony, you can't use Mega Bass and their custom EQ, which is another issue that I don't like that Sony does. So we're going to start at 40%. And we're going to start with, let's see. We'll start with the Sony in the middle. Here we go, 40%. Can two party boxes for $600 knock off the $650 Sony? $110. Sony. JBL. Nice. Sony. Bass-wise, I think JBL is just as good or better. Clarity, JBL is also looking better. Change tracks. So on the JBL, we'll go up to 60%. Sony. JBL. Wow. Clear, detailed sound. Sony. JBL. Change tracks, go up to 80% on the JBL. Sony. JBL. change track, still 80% on the JBL. It's a little bit of a bass track. Sony. I'm gonna stop it right there. With that bass drop on that, you can tell the JBL is hitting the bass drop lower than the Sony. The Sony has that pop pop noise where it just can't get down to whatever the frequency this is hitting. The JBL can't, or excuse me, the Sony can't hit it. Let's go back to it. Still on the Sony. JBL. Go up to 100%. Sony. JBL. Sony. So yeah, these both will lose some bass when you get up to upper volume and like max volume. But from that right there, kind of sounded like the Sony was losing a little bit more bass than the JBL at max volume on that bass drop. So this will piss off the Sony fans, I'm sure, but two 110s for $600. They're $300 right now versus that XV800 for $650. There's not a chance in the world, unless you just wanted to carry around one speaker. Not a chance in the world I'd take that Sony over the two JBLs. The two JBLs, you can also pole mount them. You can't do that with a Sony. The JBL Partybox 310 you can pole mount, which is about the same size as that XV800. You can pole mount them so you can adjust the height where you want them. You can spread them out. You're going to get a bigger sound stage. There's better clarity coming out of those, better sound stage as it is right now because you've got two. Whereas the Sony sounds more boxed in, the sound coming out of it. Doesn't seem like it has as much sound stage. Obviously, you're dealing with one speaker versus two. So the next question is, what would one Partybox 110 do against this? I think I had somebody propose that just recently. So we'd better find out. Right, Mr. Hand? Oh, he gave me a finger up on that. Let's do that next. See what we got. All right, so we did the TWS 110s. They were a little bit louder, not a huge margin, about 3-4 dBs at least in most instances at max volume. A little bit louder, clearer, better sound stage, better low bass. Pretty much a win, in my opinion. Now we're going to do one single 310, or excuse me, 110 against the XV800. Here we go. This is at 40%. We'll start with the Sony. JBL. Sony. JBL. Getting a little bit louder sound out of the Sony. A little fuller sound. Sony. Let's go up to 60. A little stutter there. JBL. Sony. going to stop it there, and I'm going to now change the JBL's EQ a little bit. Like I said, this is what we're running. Now I'm going to add to that deep bass. See what that does to it. All right, back to it. Sony. Let's go up to 80%. Got some stuttering going on there. JBL. Sony. JBL. Change tracks, still 80%. The vocals sound a little smoother on the JBL. The vocals start getting a little harsh on the Sony. Still 80%. Sony. JBL. Sony. JBL. Let's go up to 100%. Max volume. Sony. JBL. Sony. Go down to 60%. 60%. JBL. Sony. Back that up a little bit. Let's go down to 20%. See what they sound like at a really low volume. This is Sony. JBL. Sony. Not a lot of difference at 20%. JBL. Let's go up to 40. Sony. So it's a little different story with just one JBL. I think between the two of them, these are plugged in. You get a little boost plugged in. Both of these lose a little bit of their output and overall sound when you run them off their battery, but the Sony is a little bit louder than the JBL. It's not a big difference, a few dBs. The bass it's still, you know, it will hold true because whatever you had two speakers of the same thing, you're not going to get lower bass. You'll just get more of whatever bass that speaker can reproduce. So you're still getting that lower grunt sound from the JBL that you're not getting from the Sony. And at 100% volume, it might hold true even just a little bit more. So, in my opinion, if I had to take one of these two and I had to buy, or excuse me, if I had to buy one, I would probably just get the JBL for $300, whereas knowing that you can add a second one and still have less money in it than the Sony. Sony is definitely not a bad speaker. It is a good speaker. It just, Sony, their speakers, this holds true with pretty much every one of these party speakers and their boombox style speakers. They don't have the low bass capability. They just haven't figured it out, I guess. I mean, this thing should be able to beat that Partybox 110 without a real issue, but it can't as far as low bass goes. And I think you get up in higher volumes, the upper range starts getting a little sketchy. More so on the Sony with the vocals and stuff, starts getting you get a little harshness out of it. So I'm not here to bash the Sony speakers like that XV800 that's right over to the left. I listen to it quite a bit. It's just when you put these speakers up against a JBL, the differences and the deficiencies become more apparent. And this holds true with the XV800 too. I'd hope that XV800 would be a big improvement, especially compared to the their XP700, which I don't have anymore. I wish I still had that because I don't think it really is much better, really. I mean, I think the XP, if I was going to buy a Sony, I think I'd go buy that XP700 right now. I think it's $400. So I'd probably get it and save $250 over this XV800. It doesn't really have any big advantage that I can tell. It's got some itty bitty wheels on the back that don't work very well. Other than that, it's got the similar lights. I can't see it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This is not meant to be a JBL fanboy video or a Sony hater video. It's just, that's just what they sound like. I mean, there's no getting around it. That's just how it is. JBL just knows what they're doing, and Sony just can't quite figure out what JBL's doing, I guess. They need to hire a JBL developer that makes these. They need to take him away, and maybe he can show them what's going on. That's a wrap, guys. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know I'll probably get some rips from the Sony fans, but sorry, I still like their speakers. I just don't think, I think they're a step below JBL's in general. Like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, it costs you nothing. And as you can tell by this video, you'll get every bit of that. You'll get every bit of nothing out of it. Later, guys.